is Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations related to his theory of the moral sentiments? Well, surely they are related. People used to think that there was a kind of schizophrenia between these two works. Of course, the theory of the moral sentiments is an earlier work. It was published in 1759, although he kept revising it and changing it till the end of his life. And he certainly believed it was one of his most important works. The Wealth of Nations was published 17 years later, and Smith's views on some questions had evolved a good deal by that time. I think that they are largely concerned with different but related subjects. I think that the theory of the moral sentiments is really about personal morality. Where do people get the capacity to make moral judgments? Why do people make moral judgments at all? And surprisingly, for the British tradition of political economy, at the end of the day, his answer to that question, I think, in its ultimate philosophical assumptions, isn't that different from a thinker like Hegel. I think that he really believed that our capacity and our need to make moral judgments is rooted in what he called sympathy, but if you start to dig into what he meant by sympathy, it was really the closely related to the idea that we need to be appreciated by others. You know, Hegel called it recognition. We need recognition from others. We're not going to get recognition from others unless we can have in some ways, I think some of the times when Smith said sympathy, he really meant empathy. Unless we can see the world from their perspective and see how they see us. And it was a need that human beings have a need for affirmation from others that I think was at the core of his idea of sympathy. And that's what leads us to make moral judgments and to have a moral sense, or what we might think of as a moral sense. I think that's the underlying message of the theory of the moral sentiments. But he was mostly thinking of our non-market lives and transactions. I think personal lives, professional and personal friendships, and so on. It is true that some of the central ideas that he would develop in the Wealth of Nations are mentioned in the theory of the moral sentiments, including the famous idea of the invisible hand. He first mentions it there, and that's the notion that Smith didn't actually invent. I think it really starts with Mandeville's Fable of the Bees. Mandeville's Fable of the Bees was originally called Grumbling Hive, which is in a way a more vivid depiction of the idea that propitious results for the whole of society can be the product of individual behavior that's not self-consciously altruistic at all, but selfish. That notion in Smith is really about market relations only. I think he had a view of life. He did have this view that market relations should shape every form of social interaction. So I think that the idea of self-interested behavior aggregating through the invisible hand to socially beneficial results for Smith was constrained to the market realm. And so it is true that it's a different set of preoccupations from the ideas that he discussed in the theory of the moral sentiments. But I don't think the two views are ultimately incompatible with one another, which is what people have from time to time argued.